torching. So how do you torch?
Torching is that's my plan B. If
Okay.
like recently my winch has not been working, so it only goes up, but I just fixed it. So fortunately, and it's easier for me to torch a pig if my winch only goes up, if you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
I can't, because scalding and scraping requires lots of winch movement, lots of up and down.
Yes.
And if one of those is slow or not working, then suddenly it becomes very inefficient. So I've been torching, and torching is, it works. It is definitely an option that you would choose for culinary purposes. And I know we just said that hair is a thing that does not belong in the kitchen, but there's exceptions to everything.
Uh-huh.
You would torch a pig because you want a little more skunk on there.
Okay.
Now, that being said, I still get it crazy clean. And
Right.
if a pig's young enough and it's the summer, I will get it as clean as a scalded and scraped pig. I will be more tired. So I feel like the biggest difference is torching is more demanding because for whatever reason, you require more force with each scrape of the hog scraper, the bell scraper, than you do with a proper scald. And I guess I do know that way. It's because all the hairs are still intact. So what that means is, to get down to the exacerbating details, is you torch the pig once. You do it once over. And I do this segmented, like I'll do it the back legs first before I put the gambrel in. And then the whole back segment, the hams. But you do one pass with the torch just so that the scurf, the pigmented layer of skin, bubbles like large goosebumps. You don't want to get huge bubbles because that's a little too much. You just little bubbles. And you're actually seeing the scurf rise like it's trying to jump off of the dermis.
Okay.
The epidermis is trying to jump off of it. And move the torch on. Like, don't heat that part anymore.
Yes.
And as you move on, you'll notice you're leaving all the hairs. Like, you've just singed the tops of them.
Okay.
But the scurf is lifted off before the hairs are burnt, particularly if the pig is wet, which in this region it inevitably will be. And then you scrape off the scurf.
Right.
And the hairs are still on there, like all of them. Way more than
Really?
you could shave. Yes. They're
So
just
more
all
than-
shortened. They're just all charred a little bit. And then...
so then you have to scrape
No, there's too many hairs to shave.
Okay.
There's too many. Because in a scald, you do remove most of the hairs with the scraper. Even if there's a lot left, you've removed 90%. But with a torch, they are all still there. They're just all shorter. And if you try to shave that, you would be quickly discouraged. It's way too much, even for a very sharp knife. Not that it gets dull, it's just it would take hours. And so you hit it with the torch again, and you char the hairs right down to the follicle. And it's a heavy blast, and you are even browning the skin a little bit. The skin will darken on you because you're charring it.
Yeah, it looks when you bring them in at the end of a day, it smells different, it looks different.
Yeah, it's
different.
slightly tenderized, and it's already kind of on its way to being edible a little more. It's more chewable.
That makes
And because it's a lot more of the collagen has converted to gelatin, so it's a little sweeter, which is that's the word on the street. Like, historically, people prefer torching because of the sweetness.
Okay.
Back again before highly refined sugar defined sweetness for our palates.
Right.
Sweetness was gelatin instead of collagen. You know, you can actually taste that little sweetness.
Yeah.
So
like when you char an onion or something.
Yeah.
It's slightly sweet.
Yeah. I think gelatin has a sweetness about it that's really nice, a sweet richness. And so you torch it hard all the way down to the follicles, and then you need to scrape that.
Yes.
And so, because now you have a bunch of charred hair on there.
So you're scraping it twice.
You scrape it again.
Wow, that's why you're tired at the end of the day.
And I go off, and then if you're going to be obsessively stubborn like I am, I hit it with a Scotch-Brite sponge.
Oh, wow.
Because the scraper, it does remove a lot of the charred hairs and some of the follicles if you hold it there long enough, but it leaves ash behind. And you can scrub almost all of it off, if you're stubborn enough, with the coarse side of a Scotch-Brite sponge. And Scotch-Brite even makes, this is like an ad, they make a coarse sponge with a handle on it.
Oh.
And you scrub it hard. And you have to have the hose right next to you because you have to get it wet first and then scrub it. And then you rinse it. But you got to rinse it immediately or the ash will dry and kind of re-adhere and you have to scrub it again. So you rinse it and you'll see it peel down and you will be amazed at how clean it is. You'll be like, wow, that was... Because to be honest, torching, like, it looks pretty nasty until after the Scotch-Brite. It does not look good. And then you scrub it and it's shocking. It's like, wow, that's actually white. I got it. So it's much more arduous in my experience. And I think that's because I am trying to get all the way to the same result that I would get from a scald and scrape, which doesn't necessarily have to be the case because, like I say, we had someone contact us to torch pigs. And we didn't know that until the day of slaughter, and he showed up. He was a Russian guy, and we've told this story before.
With them.
Russian, as in did not speak English, and he was going to make salo, which is his heritage. It is the northeastern cured pork fat that is common to like all peoples in the northern hemisphere, in Europe, and they all have their version of it. In Western, Central, Eastern Europe, and everywhere, but his is salo, and like Słonina is Polish, and Salona is Hungarian. It's solid cured pork fat, and his salo must have the skin on, and the skin must have been torched, not scalded. And he was insistent upon that on the day of slaughter, when he saw that I was dunking the pigs and scalding and scraping them.
Hired us initially only so that he could have salo at the end results.
Yeah, that was the whole point of the pig.
Getting the whole pig for salo, and so we were first of all, we were the only ones who would even leave the skin on. Yeah, because we were a custom operation. But scalding and scraping even wasn't enough for him. Yeah, he needed it torched. So I think the farmer, you didn't even have a torch on you. It was like the farmer wrestled one out of a garage or something. He
was a hazelnut farmer.
What kind of torch do you use?
So I have been purchasing the cheapest one I could find at a hardware store until, two of those proved dysfunctional, because that's what happens when you buy the cheapest thing on the shelf. It just doesn't work very long. And so I did finally break down, and I bought like a more utility grade one that roofers would use, to melt tar and stuff. So it's better. Got it on Amazon. Okay. And it does have an onboard igniter, which is really nice. A little click, 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 click. And then you just pull the trigger. It actually has a trigger rather than a spinny valve, and it does help. And it needs to be like 500,000 BTUs, or it's just taking way too long. It needs to be a serious blast. Okay. And I would say the advantage of the torch, again, is a little bit of skunk, and that's possible sweetness that you can get. It's part of your recipe. It's also that you dispense with the chore of filling and heating the water. And depending on your hose availability in a backyard setup, that could be a serious consideration. So it is kind of nice just to be able to walk up, shoot the pig, stick it, drag it out, torch. Right. Start right up. Now, usually in my setup, I have coordinated everything so that I'm not waiting for water to heat. So I don't have to deal with that. But it is, a 55-gallon drum and extra apparatus that I have to lug around.